Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Longhorn community meeting. Today is February 12th, 1991, and happy Chinese New Year. So in today's session, we'll have two topics. The first one is we're going to go through what the currently Longhorn team is working on for the next release. And the next one is we are going to introduce you to our new process of handling community issues. So let's hit the first one first. So for the next release, Longhorn 1.1.1, we are targeting the early next month for the release date. And currently the 1.1.1 is mostly a stable release, and currently we have a few outstanding enhancements, and we're still currently working on. And the first thing is in the 1.1.1, we are going to support upgrade the Longhorn engine automatically. And in fact, this was the feature that requested by many users, and also another project, Harvester, which depends on Longhorn as well. And once this feature is enabled, once the user has upgraded the Longhorn manager using the Helm chart or YAML, and the Longhorn will start to try to upgrade the Longhorn engine automatically to the version that matched to the Longhorn manager. So this makes it much easier for the user to complete the upgrade process that doesn't have any volume straddled in the old version. But there's still some caveats for this version. For example, previously, why we didn't do this automatically is because if there's some engine upgrade failure or due to various reasons, for example, you have volumes that's in the degrade state, or some might even be faulted, and those engines is not really a very graceful way to handle the upgrade. So we are still trying out all kind of test scenarios and try to get more reliable mechanism to support this feature. And so for the 1.1.1 release, and this feature will be disabled by default, but you can still enable it in the setting to help you with the upgrade process. The next feature I'm going to talk about is the back image feature. So this feature, in fact, was existing, already existing in the Longhorn engine part, but we haven't able to bring it up to the schedule for the Longhorn manager to support it. This feature is commonly used if you want to have a shared image base for some of your volumes, that most likely in the case of if you are using Longhorn as the storage layer for your VMs. So this feature will make sure that we are going to create a single base image file as the base for all the replicas on the same node. In fact, in this case, it is all the replicas on the same disk. So if you have created multiple VM or multiple volumes with the same base image, and the base image will always going to be read-only, and when you operate, and you can still write whatever data on top of that base image, but when you do the backup, a snapshot, we're not going to put the base image part into the backup or snapshot. So everything you are dealing with is going to only be the delta between the base image and what's your current state, what's current your volume you're writing to. So it's a little bit like the overlay file system the Docker has been using for the reduced size of the your container image. So with this feature, we're able to help the VM to spin up much faster based on Longhorn, because they don't need to have the very lengthy process to download the big image file every time when they start a new VM. So this is part of enhancement we had for the 1.1.1, and also this is designed for with Harvester support in mind. And one final thing we have here is the line migration support for KubeVirt. And of course, this is also designed with the Harvester use case in mind. So currently, the KubeVirt doesn't support line migration using the read-write once volume. So read-write once so KubeVirt currently only supports the storage provider to be the read-write many in order to perform the line migration process. As you know, the line migration process doesn't really involve in the storage layers. So the most data written and write is like in the memory, and make sure that memory can be migrated properly is the main key focus point for the line migration. So they assume that the underneath storage is always the same. So that's why previously you saw a lot of line migration done using like NFS or similar storage just to provide read-write many, like say you can read and write on two different nodes, this kind of feature in order to support line migration. But in Longhorn, in fact, even though Longhorn is a read-write once solution, but we do able to support line migration because in the case of Longhorn, we still able to have the read-write many feature as part of raw image support. Just you cannot run any like real file system on it. And if you have any file system on top of block device, then well, you know that because of cache layer of the file system, if you write things from two different nodes, there will be a conflict. But in the case of line migration, in fact, that won't be an issue because whenever the KVM or QEMU decide to start migration, they were either going to write on the original node, on the source node, or they're going to write on the target node. And once they switched over to the target node and complete the migration, the write will not going to happen again on the source node. So that in fact enables Longhorn to do the line migration support even with the read-write once volume as a block device. We are going to expose Longhorn as in the raw block device mode as read-write many, and enable that just for in the case of the user of Longhorn want to do the line migration on top of that. So we have successfully tested this approach, and as you know that using the raw block device and raw block device support is going to have a much better performance compared to if you are using the NFS or other read-write many like a distributed file system support. There's another issue, in fact, we are working on and realize that we don't really need to do many things, is the FS group policy. So there was an issue that our user found out that if you have a volume which with a large amount of files and a lot of layer of directories, and if you are using it and you want to change the if you cannot use root as your file system group or as your default user, so then you have to ask Kubernetes to change the permission. And Kubernetes, in fact, do it in a recursive way. So it can take hours after the device, after the storage, after the volume was mounted on the node, but before the Kubernetes decide to finish the recursive permission setting process and then hand it over to the user. So in the Kubernetes 1.20, they introduced a new FS group, file system group change policy, and the file system group policy for the CSI. So initially, we thought we need to do something to support the new file system group change policy, which is going to support both, say, unconditionally setting the permission every single time, or the Kubernetes only going to set recursive permission if the root permission of the disk doesn't match with whatever has been not being specified. But in the end, we found out, in fact, for the file system group policy, as a Longhorn, we don't need to do anything because by default, Kubernetes think Longhorn and most other storage system are going to recognize the file system group policy. And if the Kubernetes want to set the permission, those permission will be set correctly. So that is so this FS group policy API, in fact, is introduced for those file system like NFS or cluster, and even they don't need to perform the recursive permission change. And that is a different kind of a scenario, which what we have right here with Longhorn. So we're still like finalize our investigation to see if there's still anything we can do. But really, for the 1.20, if you have this issue, as you need to have a large volume with a lot of files, and you do need to set security context, you can just simply upgrade to 1.20 and with file group set file system group change policy on root mismatch, and then Kubernetes should deal with it automatically for you and without really involvement from Longhorn side. But just one caveat on the 1.20. There's currently an issue, a bug in the Kubernetes 1.20 and 1.19. We are tracking, and this is going to, in fact, affect the HA capability of the Longhorn. So the upstream Kubernetes has a bug that they didn't set the necessary tent, the unschedulable no execute tent on the failure node. So this is going to result in the Longhorn fail to recover from the from node down scenario because the tent was not found and the pod was not automatically deleted. So the Kubernetes upstream has merged its fix for the 1.21, but they are to cherry pick issues, the PRs for the 1.90 and the 1.20 still hasn't been merged yet. So I think they are still working on this. What is the latest update? Is from 3 days ago. I think they are going to be approved probably in the next week and going to include in the next stable releases for both releases. Okay, so that's all the update I have on the Longhorn 1.1.1. And the next topic I want to talk about is we have introduced a new process for the community issue review. So because that now we have Longhorn has gained a lot of popularity and more and more people starting using it. And now we are hitting, the latest number is 20,500 nodes worldwide. So of course, we're going to see a lot of issue reports and the questions and feedback from the community. So that is really expected and that's really encouraged. But on the Longhorn side, we still we have a bandwidth problem, to be frankly. So we are trying to answer every questions and troubleshooting every issues we found because that is what makes Longhorn great. But the thing is, we probably cannot really guarantee that we can get back you in 1 day or even 2 days because there's just too many things going on and there were too many requests. And also we still have our daily job and have development work need to be done. So we have introduced this community issue review. This is what you see if you take a look at the Longhorn project. And those are all the issues coming from the Longhorn user community side. And we are going through them one by one. And we have hosted multiple meetings per week to go through them. And once we have received the issue, and we are going to put this on the new issues, and then if nobody no engineers haven't had time to pick it up, then we will discuss it in the community issue review meeting to decide what should be the next step for the issue. And if we already have engineers looking into the issue, but it requires additional attention from the team because there's the complexity of the problem, we're going to put in the team review request the column, which is we are going to have a once a week team review meeting to handle this more complex issues. So once we are done with our response, we are going to put it to the pending user response. And if the user responds it, we can put it back to an in progress and we answer it and just helping user to achieve their goals. But if the user doesn't really respond within 1 month, we're going to close it and still feel free to reopen, close the bugs so we can have a follow-up. And once we decide, either say the issue was resolved or issue we don't have any feedback or any additional follow-up from the user, or the issue we think is a real issue and we think we should fix it in some release, and then we're going to move it into the resolve and the scheduled column. So this column, in fact, has two meanings. One is the column is having, we are showing here, say, the close the issues, which is, of course, resolved. Another part of it, we are having, for example, for the Longhorn HA SSA with the other read only implementation. So we are going to spend more time and to look into that, and it has been scheduled for the 1.1.2 milestone, which means we're aiming to solve this issue and have a complete answer by this time. Right, so this is how the workflow works right now, and feel free to give us some feedbacks if you, and also feel free to check this board and to see that if there's anything you can help as a user community, and we will definitely appreciate the help. All right, so that's all I want to cover for today. Any questions? All right. So today is the first time we're using this platform, and in fact, I'm really grateful for the CNCF to give us this great tool to hosting our community meetings. And now every recording of our community meeting will be hosted automatically on this platform. And also, you can register for the event or even for the CNCF Longhorn chapter, and then you can receive the notification for the first future events. All right, so if there's no question, thanks everyone, and see you next month. Bye.